Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie, and welcome to another episode of I Bet You've Never Heard These 80s Albums Before. This is a show where I pick 5 random albums, relatively obscure, and then I talk about them and play a little bit of music. This is episode 21, and I usually feature 5, as I said, but since we're celebrating this show's 21st birthday, I'm going to add 1 extra at the tail end. I really appreciate all the support that I've gotten for this show, but I got to stop these words from dripping out of my mouth and get the party started. I bet you've never heard this 80s album before. First album I'm going to talk about is a British quartet by the name of The Act. The album's called Too Late at 20, and it came out in 1981. They're not folk rock, they're not jangle pop, they're not power pop. They're kind of a mixture of all of it. Now, the 2 main guys in the band were Mark Gilmour on guitar. I believe he handled lead guitar. He was the younger brother of David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. And then the singer-songwriter of the band was Nick Laird-Clowes, who would later form the Dream Academy a few years after The Act broke up. This is a wonderful album. It's a very timeless sounding album. If you've never heard it, you might think like, wow, that does sound fresh and exciting. I am surprised this never came out on CD. It's such a great album. As I said, Nick eventually went on to form the Dream Academy, and then he worked with Pink Floyd, I think writing lyrics or something. And then Mark Gilmour, he formed a band called the Scarlet Party, who released 2 singles. And I believe that they may have had an album in the can, but it never came out. But thankfully, Too Late at 20 by The Act did come out, and it was released in 1981.
Giving up on the Long Island Sound, Route 28, wheels spinning round.
I bet you've never heard this 80s album before. Let's stay in 1981, but we're going to move over to Ireland, and we're going to talk about the BOOMTOWN RATS and their 4th album, Mondo, Bongo. This is the first album they worked with Tony Visconti, and it's a very strange sounding album compared to the other ones, which were more straightforward and edgier, whereas this was multi-layered, moodier, still writing great songs. The album came out in the UK, and it had a couple hit singles on it, but by the time it came out in America, they had rejigged the songs. They added the UK single, Up All Night, to the American album, which is one of my favorite BOOMTOWN RATS songs. And then they released it here in the US. I believe just a slightly altered cover, but the album was called Mondo Bongo. It's a very dense album. They threw a lot of ideas into it, but it's just wonderful because it's such a creative band. And of course, Tony Visconti at the controls. This is the BOOMTOWN RATS, Mondo Bongo from 1981.
Suffering the screaming sea sounds like die. Everywhere I go, yeah. Everywhere I see the black and blue uniforms, police and priest. And you're guilty, proven guilty. chorus said, "Come and go." In Japanese they said, I heard someone say, "Come and go." And we went, African jungle, big city street. The only real difference is in the people you meet. Up all night, staying up all night, up all night, staying up all night. It's an agreeable town. It's neat and sedate.
I bet you've never heard this 80s album before. We're going to go back to 1979. I know it's not the 80s, but it counts in my book. We're going to talk about the self-titled album by a band called the Laughing Dogs. Some call them power pop. There's a couple songs in the album that were power pop. Sure, they're more of just a great melodic rock and roll band, influenced by everyone from The Who and the Beatles and the Kinks, and, you know, going back to 50s rock and roll. What an incredibly gifted band. You got Jimmy Accardi on guitar, you got Ronnie Carl on bass, you got Carter Cathcart on keyboards and guitar, and then you've got Mo Potts on drums. They pounded away, man. This album is clean and fresh and just still sounds amazing. It's a very, very powerful album, and they're just all over the map. You know, they've got some mellow songs on this, some great rock and roll songs, and there's even a song or two that could have fit melodically on a Steely Dan album. It's just a great rock and roll album. Now, what I want to point out here is the album cover. This album cover is the original album cover for the debut album by Wicked Lester, which was Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, their band. So they left the label and they left the band and they invented Kiss. But sitting in the vaults was this unused album cover by Wicked Lester. And I don't know if the Laughing Dogs members had say-so in the album cover, you know, if they said, yeah, let's use that one, or if the label just threw it on there. But, you know, now to me, you know, it's the Laughing Dogs album cover. To about, I don't know, 700 million Kiss fans, it's the Wicked Lester album cover. So let's give a listen to the self-titled debut album by the Laughing Dogs, released in 1979. I bet you've never heard this 80s album before. Next album I want to talk about is a band called the Innocence, and this was a self-titled album that came out in 1982. This is probably the only band that I never heard until I saw them live. They opened for Split Enz at the Hollywood Palladium in May of 1982. And they sure left an impression on me because the next day I went out and I bought the album. Half the album made mixtapes that I made for the next 10 years or so. But the interesting thing about it is the keyboard player from the band is Thomas Newman, or Tommy Newman. Now, Thomas Newman is Randy Newman's cousin. Yes, that Randy Newman. So definitely a very, very talented family. And of course, Tommy, or Thomas Newman, has gone on to compose lots of soundtracks. Lead singer Michael Hurt, which I believe his name is like Michael Convertino is his name. I think he's a film composer as well. When this band first got together and signed to Boardwalk Records, they made a documentary called Rock and Roll Dreams, which sort of showed them recording the album and preparing to introduce them to the world. A little mini documentary. I think they played it on NBC or something. I didn't see that when it was on TV, and I've been a fan of this band since May of 1982. Still haven't seen it. But now it's time for you to hear The Innocence, their self-titled album from 1982.
No, she shakes when she's in my arms, trembles when she's next to me. Her that's a message of love. Shakes when she's in my arms, trembles when she's next to me. Her that's a message of love. Fool around, baby. Just a kiss, ayy. Fool around, baby. But you can't stop leading me on. Stop living on lines. Stop coming off clouds. Say I got you, baby, but you don't tell the truth. Flash your bottle round, but you don't follow me. I'm never gonna go. I'm never gonna leave. D-A-R-E-C-T-O-Y, 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 yeah, baby. D-A-R-E-C-T-O-Y, yeah, baby. Directly from the heart. 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 Directly from the
I bet you've never heard this 80s album before. This next album I want to talk about is probably one of the most well-known artists that I've covered on this show. And the artist's name is Robert Palmer. And the album is called Clues from 1980. This was kind of a transition album for him. He's already put out some, critically successful albums. He wasn't a big commercial success, but he had put out some critically successful albums. And this album came out in 1980, and this was him sort of moving over from just playing just great bluesy rock to embracing the whole new wave, the whole electronic thing. So Clues was just filled with some great songs that straddled the line between rock and electronica or synth pop or new wave, whatever you want to call it. Musician-wise, the album also straddles the line. It features Chris Frantz from Talking Heads. I think he plays percussion on one song. Gary Newman, who wrote one of the songs, I Dream of Wires. He's on the album as well. But then again, so is Andy Fraser from the band Free. So you've got 1 foot in the old school, 1 foot in new school. I love this album. I will tell you, I'm not a big fan of Beatles covers, but Robert Palmer does a version of Not a Second Time, but it's one of my absolute favorite Beatles covers, and there's only maybe half a dozen Beatles covers that I really like. Some people out there might be familiar with this. Some people only caught on to Robert Palmer with the whole Simply Irresistible and all that kind of stuff, but this is just a prime period. So now I get to present to you my favorite Robert Palmer album, Clues from 1980.
Johnny's always running around trying to find certainty. He needs all the world to confirm that he ain't lonely. Mary counts the walls, knows he tires easily. Johnny's you're giving me the same old lie. I'm wondering why. You hurt me then, you're back again. Oh no, no.
I bet you've never heard this 80s album before. Ding, 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 ding. It's time for the bonus album for episode 21. This is a compilation album called Permanent Wave that came out in 1979. This actually introduced me to some great bands because I had never heard them before. I had maybe seen a 45 or I'd seen an LP, but when you get a compilation and it's like $2.99, brand new, you're going, oh, I got to check this out. And let me look here real fast at the list. After the Fire eventually had an album released in the U.S. like 3 years later. Crystal Flyers' Television Generation was a single only in the UK. The Cortinas never came out in the US. New Hearts only had 2 singles, and then they broke up, and Ian and Dave formed the mod band Secret Affair. The Diodes, Canadian punk rock, the only ones actually had a compilation called Special View that came out a year or 2 later. Master Switch never had anything, I think, beyond this single. The Vibrators, of course, had an album out, but I don't think this song, Judy Says, was on an American album at the time. Then there's a group called the Spikes, and I think they might have been an American band and just thrown onto this. They never even put out anything. So this compilation is really, really unique because it's all just great melodic punk pop, new wave. And for being a 15, 16-year-old kid wanting to learn more and more about music, this was a great introduction to some of these bands that I still follow today. So let's check out the Permanent Wave compilation from 1979.
And I think it's gonna be alright. Yes, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball.
Judy says she's gonna knock you in the head tonight. Judy says she's gonna knock you in the head tonight. Judy says she's gonna knock you in the head. You better watch out or you wind up dead. Judy says she's gonna knock you in the head tonight.
And no more nothing to say, no more pressure delay, no more radio play, no more study J distraction replay.
I think I'm on another world with you. I'm on another planet with you.
What kind of line is that you're giving me? One more for you, one more for me.
She was a part of the television generation. Television generation. Only 17 and glued to the screen.
Oh no, just another teenage anthem. If you wanna hear something new, then you'll have to hate your own cliches. 'Cause they're the only things left to you. Over to you, over to you, over to you, over to you.
No one noticed you before you hit the floor. No one noticed you before. No, no. Oh, I was flattered when you wrote me an album when I told you I was shattered. I'm writing me through the night.
And that's it. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of I Bet You've Never Heard These 80s Albums Before. I hope you found something you like. I hope you found something that reminds you maybe of something you used to listen to, and you pull it out of your collection and you just reconnect with that magic, the passion that music brings into our lives. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and for supporting this series. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.